everybody. Welcome. LTG Live. What's up, Peter? How are you? Good to see you, my brother.
Man, I'm doing good, bro. Man, I'm doing good, bro.
Yeah, I can tell. You look good. You look real good.
Thank.
And it's great. We're so glad we missed last week, but we're back today. Let's go. And we got an amazing guest. It's gonna be great. But Peter, we have such a big announcement, right? So we're so excited about this. But before we do that, man, those of you that are joining us right now online, take a moment, introduce yourself in the chat, tell us where you're watching from, and click that share button right away because we got a huge announcement for Lead the Generation that we're getting ready to make. And we want as many people to hear it as possible. Peter, I know you're excited about what's coming up right now, but before we jump into that, what's happening in your life? We missed last week. We both had crazy travel schedules, but it's been 2 weeks. But glad to be back with you today, brother.
Bro, everything is good. Life is good, and man, I'm excited. It's warm weather in Michigan, dude. We're cruising, and so we get to go outside. We don't have to stay in our homes anymore, and that just makes everything better. So
So good. So good. There's a bunch of you online right now. I see you, Gilbert. I see you, Craig Hicks, Ricky Ingram, Trevor. So many of you logging on. This is so cool. It's exciting. This is great. So if you've never been with us before, this is LTG Live, right? We're here usually every single week on Thursday. If you're not familiar with who we are, leadthegeneration.com. Check us out, see what we do. We coach, resource, equip youth pastors, student leaders, youth ministries across the nation. Peter, before we make our big announcement and we play a video, I don't even know. Do you remember who our guest is next week? So because it's someone pretty amazing, someone who's pretty significant in my life
you
and your
put me
life.
on spot. I do not remember who our guest is next week, but I know it's gonna be good.
Here it is, the one and only.
Oh, duh,
Come
Jeannie
on, bro.
Mayo. Come on,
I mean,
wow! Don't tell her I forgot.
yeah. No, I won't. I will not. I will not tell her that you forgot. But Gene's gonna be with
Cool,
you
because I
next
will
week.
deny all the allegations.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. And today, our special guest is. We're gonna introduce him in just a minute, but we're so excited to have Chris Moore with us. And Chris has been doing incredible things with Valley Conference and in youth ministry out in Arizona. And that's gonna be a great conversation. But hey, before we do that, again, we got a big announcement that we want to make. We're gonna spend a couple minutes talking about it. But man, Peter and I are so excited. And we can talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, but it would just be better if we just showed you a quick video clip of what's coming up here at Lead Generation. This is going to be amazing.
Woo!
Oh, come on, man. So exciting. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. I know we got some crazy delay, some tech issues. And that's why we started a couple minutes late. So we're trying to figure them out. Here, talk to me, man. Conference is coming. May 17th, 18th, so many Lead Generation conferences. You're part of this one as well. What are you excited about?
Man, I'm excited for my students to come alive. They always leave inspired by what's happening at Lead the Generation, and I'm fired up for them to catch some fresh vision, to want to grow. I'm excited for my leadership team to dive in and get inspired, challenged, and encouraged. We always leave better, man. We're excited about it.
It's gonna be amazing. We got an incredible lineup. We'll be talking more about it coming up, but over 3 dozen different sessions, main session speakers, breakout session speakers. I'll be doing some sessions. Peter's gonna be doing some sessions. Gonna be absolutely amazing. Again, I see your comments. A about a bunch of delays on my end here. My apologies, man. You know how technology is. Sometimes it's awesome and sometimes it's terrible, and we're just working through it right now. So, but Lead Generation Conference is coming, and hey, listen, just so you know, registration opens on Monday. Registration opens on Monday with a 1-day ticket sale, 1-day only ticket sale, $10 a ticket. That's the only time you're going to get that price. After that, Tuesday morning, man, it bumps up to $19 a ticket, which is still an incredible price for the amount of content that you get for your students, for your adult leaders. You know, Peter, one of the things that we've always done with Lead Gen Conference, that we just feel called and committed to it, and but it's also pretty unique, is that, we build this whole thing so that as a youth pastor you can bring your entire team, and we don't want you just to come by yourself. We really have fashioned all of the content and all of the experience of the day and the price point so that you could bring your entire team. So the time of it being a Friday night into a Saturday morning, and so your students can be available and all of your volunteer leaders can be available. All of those things are intentional. As a youth pastor myself, I got so tired of never being able to bring my team to be able to share in all of the amazing moments of inspiration and training that I was getting. And so it was always a desire in my heart that we would create something that a youth pastor of any size church and any size team could come and they could experience all of it. We'll be talking about that a lot in weeks to come. Youth pastors that are putting together watch parties, youth pastors that are putting together virtual watch parties, really leveraging this moment. A lot of them are even treating the whole weekend almost like an in-house student leadership retreat, adult leadership retreat for their team. How are you guys? Real quick, Peter? How are you guys going to be approaching it on your end?
Yeah, man, I think we're just gonna have a huge watch party. We're gonna obviously purchase everything we need to, and then we're gonna have our whole team stream it, man. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. So, exciting stuff kicks off on Monday. Share the word, man. Share the word. So good. So, hey, let's jump into this, man. We are so excited. Peter and I are excited to have the one and only Mr. Chris Moore joining us. Chris,
how's it going, guys?
Bro, how are you? We caught you just as you were getting a quick green.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, doing good. Enjoying beautiful Arizona, like Peter said. Very open here. I'm living in the Wild West. I saw Craig Hicks in the chat. Love you, Craig. And obviously, Aaron, dude. Everyone says and it was cool because your reputation precedes you. It's an honor to be on here. But everyone I know says that you're you've been a steady voice in youth ministry, and that, man, you've really made a way for youth pastors and have been consistent. So, dude, anything I can say, dude, I just want to honor you and say thank you for leading the generation. So appreciate you, man.
Yeah, yeah, man. We're all leading our generation, right? So, the title is not bequeathed just to me. It's to you're Chris, you're doing some incredible things too. You had a busy week, man. You were helping host at Youth Pastor Co's conference earlier this week, which was incredible. I caught I caught all day on Monday. I watched the entire thing, and Tuesday I was able to catch about half of it. But really good stuff, man. So,
dude, if you were able to just get Nathan Finocchio's session, let me tell you, it was worth the money. Because I'll just say this, I can't say it. He said things on there that were so inappropriate that I couldn't believe that they played the video. And he did a 15-point message. It was incredible. It was incredible, truly.
It was so good. But, well, Chris, man, we're excited, man. Thanks for joining us today. We asked you to come on today, just specifically to talk about using social media to influence students for the gospel. And this is a topic that Peter and I are super excited to dialogue with you about and ask you some questions and pick your brain, because a big part of your story, especially over the last year with what we all went through together, with COVID and quarantine, a big part of your story is just God just giving you some divine strategy for how to leverage social media and how to create some incredible student leadership and ownership opportunities in your ministry. specifically in this area. So excited to just kind of jump into this conversation with you. For everybody who may be watching who doesn't really know you, Chris, give us a little background real quick, just ministry, family, some of the more fun stuff.
For sure. Well, long story short, I'm Native American, born and raised on the reservation, right? No mom, no dad, 5 siblings, none of us share a full parent, so obviously I was a little hood growing up. I've been in ministry now for 10 years at my church here in Arizona for the last 4. And man, there were 2 things that in the beginning of quarantine that we really just felt like God was calling us to be very faithful to, because this was my prayer in the beginning: God, use us to reach thousands of kids. And then I felt like I got that Holy Spirit backhand where God was like, hey, why don't you be found faithful with the kids I already gave you? And I was like, shoot, Lord, I'm like asking for more, but I can't be found faithful. And so we built a program, and essentially it wasn't a program at first. It was just I'll say this: in the business world, this is called law of diminishing returns. In the leadership world, it's called a sales funnel. In the church world, it's called sowing seeds. So I built out a strategy to help move people from online to your campus or into like your community, like deeper through Zoom and different tactics. So we built out this first phase. It takes me about 5.5 hours to run through. We put it into like a masterclass course type thing, and it's called Influencers Program. If you want to check that out, it's influencersprogram.com. But actually, I have something free, and if you're a youth pastor and you're really trying to create great first impressions online, on my Instagram handle, which is @8more, if you click the link in my bio, I've got this free resource. It's called Your New Front Door. Because students are making decisions whether they're going to come to your church or not before they ever come to your church, right? We used to say like people are making decisions within the first 5 minutes of coming to your campus, whether they're going to come back. Now people are deciding whether they're even going to check you out before they even come to your campus. So would love to give you that free resource. It's right there in my bio on Instagram. But that's a little bit about me, and that's some of the stuff we're doing. I lead the Youth Pastor Roundtable. It was a little Zoom call that started with 15 guys, and then we broke 500 in quarantine. So we moved to a Facebook community, and we do like weekly calls, just like Aaron, who on Thursdays to inspire and equip youth pastors to change the world. And that's the dream, and that's the vision. Our dream for our vision for our group is to inspire and equip 10,000 youth pastors to invest and mentor 100,000 student influencers to reach 1 million kids for Jesus this year. And so we're believing God to see a global move of evangelism through community and community around content. So that's kind of the big overarching thing, and a little bit what God's been using me for in this season. So yeah.
Bro, that's so dope. Chris Moore, the Steve Jobs of youth ministry. I love it.
People are like, because I was wearing these turtlenecks, they're like, this is like Post Malone and Steve Jobs had a baby.
Hey, I like that. That's dope, man.
So
hey,
dumb.
so for you guys, like personally on a local level, how has the influence program kind of brought strength to your ministry?
Oh, it's a game changer. And it started because we had in the second week of quarantine, we had an 8th grade girl drink an entire bottle of hydrogen peroxide, and she was trying to end her life. And we just literally couldn't sleep at night because there was no training for this moment, right? So we were like, we've got to try anything and everything to reach kids for the gospel through online. And so we started building this group out, and eventually, like what we really have now is we have a community where the bar's set really high. Like our width is because our depth. Our students are more Bible believing, more theologically sound. They are like better leaders, and because we raise the bar in our core, it's set us up for huge growth. So like we've had some of the biggest nights in our youth ministry, whereas like a lot of youth ministries are like 20, 30, 40%. We're over 100 consistently percent where we were last year. And even at our church, like our church is back at like 40%, and we are like, our youth ministry is thriving. And so we've seen huge gains. So
Man, that's incredible. I think the reason this conversation is so engaging is because if we're not careful, a lot of our social media content across all of our youth ministry pages or whatever could all look like a bulletin board. And when I look at yours, when I look at what Valley Youth is doing and even the conference, bro, I was like, this is so engaging and inviting. What should youth pastors be thinking as they start to build out strategies for social media?
Well, Peter, that was a great point. I would say this: there's a move right now that's happening online, and it's a shift from promotional to relational, right? So, like, a graphic is like, "Hey, come to my thing." A photo of students or something that causes you to engage is relationship. It's kind of like this. It's like students will always like a picture of themselves, always. And what we found is that students love pictures of students. So, like, basically the big communication point that we use is in the captions. So when you're thinking about your captions, you're thinking about a few things. A student's making an emotional decision whether they're going to engage with your content. So if they see a face, they're going to be excited to engage with it. And then they're going to look at your copy, which is basically what you're writing. So then you've got to have something that hooks them. So it usually goes hook, body, which is like what you're trying to get out there, and then a call to action. So like those three things in an Instagram caption are really what you're looking for. If you have a great hook, some great content, and then you have a call to action, dude, that's the next level stuff. And so
Chris is a rapper out here. He's like, you need a hook. Come with the hook, and then you need the body. The body's where the bars are at.
Come on.
I love it, bro.
Yes.
That's awesome, man. So good. So good.
Chris, I talk to the youth pastors out there that feel they're probably a little bit like me. They feel like a little handicapped when it comes to social media and the pressure of trying to figure out one more thing and how to do it and how to do it just right.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed hearing you talk about at the Valley Conference online and different pieces that I caught, and then even earlier this week again, I mentioned you were helping host at Youth Pastor Co's conference and caught all of your session there, but I just felt like you had such a powerful word for empowering students in your ministry to take on some of these challenges and the value of that. So walk us through some of those real practical strategies for how youth pastors can get better at this in their ministry and not necessarily feel the pressure that they got to personally be able to clicking it and doing it all themselves.
Well, let me say this. There are three ways to engage online or to the way you view online. These are your three options for online from here on out. You're going to be an active doer, you're going to be a passive doer, or you're just going to be inactive. You're not going to be a part of it. Let's just say that's really not an option anymore. So whether you're actively doing it or passively doing it, you're doing it through other people. I would say this. Let me first off say this. If you're a youth pastor, these are two things you really need to think about when you're thinking about posting or being involved online. You need to start thinking about rhythm. What works for you? Really, like, be honest with yourself. Is it posting something every day? Is it like, do you need a posting calendar? Do you need a schedule? Do you need to sit down for 20 minutes and really think through it? And then return on investment is the other one. Rhythm and return on investment. Like, if you're spending all your time on LinkedIn, you're probably not going to reach Kids for Jesus there, right? It's like, if you're doing all your time on platforms that aren't where your students are, or if you're not engaging with your students in where they are, then I'm just saying it's not a good return on your investment. So find high impact places, find a rhythm that works for you, and be consistent. And that's pretty much it. But in the ministry wise, this is what I would say. Youth pastor, you are the approachable part of your youth ministry. You are the relational part. People want to be connected to you. Why? Because God's put a message in you. He's put a leadership in you. And so for you to be inactive is kind of like, it's kind of like saying, I value it, kind of. But if you're like, hey, I'm not going to be on it every day, I'm just going to come up with a picture and a caption, that's cool. But, I would also say, take off the pressure to be someone that you're not online. Like, your awkwardness, your quirk, whatever you're passionate about, that's your superpower, right? Like, that's what God gave you uniquely. And that's what students want. They want you to be relational. They want you to be real. And that type of stuff goes a long way. The social media can be so fake. And if you're genuine there, students can really resonate with that, especially with Gen Z, who really demands authenticity. The next thing I would say is like with students, man, in the beginning of quarantine, Ryan and I, who's a youth pastor with me on our campus at our church, we were making all of our content, all of it, 100% of it. And then we started asking students to try to make content. So we're like, hey, can you guys make stories, like Instagram stories? Hey, can you make a post that's like this or that type of thing? And then we had a student who was like, hey, I want to try and make a sermon video. And she made this sermon video, and it was called Worry Doesn't Work. And it was like, I'm not kidding, it was the best video. It was like elevation quality. And we were like, what the heck? Like, you do videos? And then she made every single one of our videos. She literally makes all of our graphics for Valley Conference, all of our graphics for Heart Youth. And she's a senior in high school. And she makes all of it. And in the summer, she came to me and she was like, hey, I can't edit this week's sermon video. I'm so sorry, Pastor Chris. I really wanted to. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do it? And she said, well, my Adobe subscription expired this week. And I was like, how many of those do you need? I'll buy you as many as you need. Like, I need you to edit this week's sermon video. You're the most valuable person on my team. And but it was one of those things where we released it, and when we saw her do it, it was incredible. And so that's just a part of what we do now. It's like we are trying to inspire these students, step out, make content. And I think that speaks to even TikTok and its explosion in Gen Z. TikTok is putting studio quality tools in kids' hands. 10 years ago, you used to have a professional camera, like a editing computer. Like you used to, like it was almost impossible to do what these kids can do on their phones now. And students are resonating with it and are eating it alive because of the creative tools. So, I mean, I don't know. I think I answered your question like 4 different ways.
Yeah. No, it's super dope, man. Yeah, I think it's really great. As I was kind of thinking about what you were saying, how do you get your youth leaders, the people that are doing this thing with you, to not just be absent from the content that you're posting online? Because obviously we want them to be present. And this is what I found, right, in our context as we continued. You know, we had a great string of growth right before we went into quarantine. Quarantine hit, and you realize, wait a minute, I'm not doing as good as a job as I thought I was as far as students being connected to Jesus, not just what we're doing in our church. I think everyone can say that. But then there was a whole other battle uphill that was fought, and it's being, going on today. We're trying to get our leaders to engage with what's happening online as well, too. Now, they're fantastic in person, right? They're incredible. But what do you say to your team to help them continue the culture that you have in person online?
Well, I would say this. Not every post is created equal, first off. Let me say that. We build into our discipleship and into our culture. Like, comment, and share is not about getting more likes. It's not about getting more comments. It's not about getting more shares. It's about being a missionary. And at the end of the day, if a leader or student leader does not want to be a missionary, that's a discipleship question. So when we have the conversation like, hey, Johnny, love you. We are influencers. We are missionaries. We own our space online. And we honestly have the conversation with people where we say, hey, all of us do this. We all like, comment, share. And we all do it on one post a week. Because it's like Meme Monday, who cares, right? It's like, I know that in order to like have that as part of our culture, we can't cash that chip in like every week and have that conversation every day. But with our sermon stuff, like on Sunday nights was when our youth ministry is. If we don't have students who are like, commenting, sharing, putting on their stories, saving it, then like that's the most missional post we have every week. So we ask everyone to be a part of that piece of content. So it's like figuring out like in different levels. It's okay if it's Meme Monday, and part of our like when we have influencers, our student leaders sign up, which our first round we had 25, and then we had 30, and this next one we had over 40 people apply for it in an 8-week period. And so so basically I'd say this, like we set the bar really high and we expect students to get to it and we hold them to it. And part of it is we ask them to like, comment, share everything. And it's like, hey bro, I know you put down that you wanted to do this. So it's a discipleship thing for us.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you call them influencers. Is that different? Does that differentiate between like student leaders, or are they one and the same for how you're approaching that?
Yeah, all of our leaders, adult leaders, are small group leaders. So we call them small group leaders, and then our students are influencers, simply because they're like the front lines of our ministry. They're the missionaries of our youth ministry, and so yeah.
I love it. Well, Chris, when you and I were talking on the phone, we were kind of setting up, what this conversation was going to be. You mentioned to me just some of the biblical context that has really motivated you during this season, and just some of the challenges that even the Apostle Paul experienced and how he was going to share the gospel. Walk us through that, because I thought you had some really interesting thoughts that were really encouraging and challenging to us as leaders.
Thanks, man. Well, first off, I think doing ministry online is incredibly biblical. I actually think that in a part of like our influencers program, which we sell, like I walk through the biblical steps of it, because so many people in churches all over the world are asking this question now: is it biblical to do church online now that we can be in person? Right? Is it beneficial? And part of what I talk about is basically like the Apostle Paul wrote 5 letters from prison, aka quarantine, right? He couldn't meet in person, but he had a message that God put inside of him that he was going to refuse to stay inside of him. It had to get out. So Paul just had this word, and there was nothing that was going to keep him. And then I talked through a little bit of like Roman roads and the expansion of the first church, the early church. Basically, I would say it this way: the church has always thrived on creative communication shifts. For instance, in the early 1st century, when Rome came in, they expanded, they added roads and systems and strategies from point A to point B. And then the church thrived because they could get a message from Rome to anywhere in the world faster than they ever had it to any previous day, because of the expansion of Rome. So I basically say, like, if Paul was alive, I think he'd be on Instagram, because he utilized the communication shift. He utilized a distribution method. And you got to listen, bro. This is crazy. This is going to make me preach. The first thing that was ever in print, when we went from oral tradition to written or to print, you have to understand, the first thing that was ever printed was the Bible. God literally got his word into the world through that shift. And I think God wants to get his church to people's hands through online. I think this is an incredibly powerful moment for the church. And the church has always thrived in moments like this. So I think it's very biblical. And I could talk about the Ephesian church. The church is known as a circular letter, which means it was meant for other people. But the Ephesian church picked up the call to get it out. And so that's why it's known as the letter to Ephesians, right? So I would call that church full of influencers, because they took that message and got it out. So yeah, that's a little bit of the biblical framework.
Yeah, Peter, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm just thinking even right now, obviously those are incredible points. So talk to me a little bit more about like the goals that you have for your influencers, for those kids and those leaders that are like, hey, I'm a part of this. What are some of your goals for them week in and week out?
So we have 3 lanes that we really run in. We talk about theology, because it's important, because this is the most biblically illiterate generation that's ever lived, right? You talk about David in the Bible and people are like, who's David? And we have kids who like come into our youth ministry and they're like, I ask them questions and they're like, my favorite part of service was the karaoke. And so knowing that like this is our starting point, we know we have to walk kids deeper theologically. We have to walk them deeper in leadership, because to us, leadership, and the reason why leadership is important to us is that it involves them reaching their friends. So we basically want to raise the level of biblical understanding. We want to raise the level of their leadership, and then we want to unlock creative gifts in them. So basically, we challenge all of our students to make content, to create, and we have challenges every week. We're like, hey, everyone, we're all going to make a story. We're all going to open up Canva right now on your phone. You're going to erase the background off of something. You're going to put it on something else. You're going to mess with some fonts. You're going to download a font off this website, put it in Canva so that you can make something. So we do stuff like that because we know that this generation, if students are making stuff for us, it's going to be way more cool than if we made it. So those are our 3 lanes we run in: leadership, theology, and creativity. And those are our major bars that we are pushing up and forward. So
Chris, I love that, bro. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that? What was I don't know, the sound of your thoughts that made you go, this is what I need to do.
Well, honestly, we were like, these are the things we want our students to grow in. So we just started doing it. And when we started seeing the gains and the success of it, we're like, okay, we're going to press into this more. And so
yeah,
we literally, you remember that moment when kids stopped watching your YouTubes during quarantine? You remember that moment? We were like, nobody's watching anymore. And we had that first one where I was like, dude, our numbers just went way down. And then I felt like God was like, hey, how about we found faithful? And I was like, okay, if I could take the kids deeper, I'm going to take them really deep. This is like deep end stuff. We talk about abortion. We talk about all these different things in theology that are really hot button topics, whether it's gay marriage or legalization of marijuana, because this generation wants to talk about it and they're asking the questions, but we want to provide the answer. So that was even part of our hook to get kids in. We're like, hey, do you want to have these hard conversations? Join this group.
Man, that's cool, bro. I really like that. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead, Aaron. No, man, go for it.
Well, I'll just, first thing before I say what I want to say, if you're watching right now, tuning in, man, we're live with Chris Moore, the Steve Jobs of youth ministry. That's your new nickname, bro. You're getting that from me. And he's taking his talents, Heart Youth, Valley Conference, to Silicon Valley. I'm just joking. He's not doing that. But bro, if you have any questions for Chris, go ahead and post them right now in the chat. We know a lot of people are listening and they have great thoughts. If you want to ask Chris a question, go ahead. We'll get to it today. But I just want to say too, man, I love what you're doing, and I want to know what are kind of the results. Tell me a story about a kid that came to your youth ministry from your city because of what they saw you were doing online. Carry out the process, because I think a lot of youth pastors are saying okay, this sounds good to us, but we do a lot of stuff that sounds good to us, and then kids are like, yo, this is whack. You know what I mean? So I love what you're doing them to the play, because they know what they want to do. Like you said, we ask them to make it, because then it's going to be cool. But tell me a story about how that went kind of full circle. You did that, and then kids as a result came because they said, I saw this online and I wanted to be there. And I wanted to be
there. So let me say this. When we launched this program, round 1, we added 1,000 followers on Instagram in 10 weeks. New students, not random kids, kids in our schools, in our neighborhoods, in our church, in our community. 1,000 students in 10 weeks. And then we were reaching 28,000 accounts a week. And then we went up and we just were like, our views tripled, our sermon views. Our sermons were just north of 1,500 students, and our youth group ain't like that. So we saw huge gains online. And it was all because of that girl who had who really, inspired us to say this was everything's worth it, because we have to see some student. I'll say this, for some students, quarantine was a death sentence. And we just had to go for it. And then we had a girl walk onto our campus. She was being walked to and from the church by her dad. I think it was actually her grandpa, but he was a little older, skin worn. He looked like his skin like leather, because he's lived in Arizona his whole life and been out in the sun. And then I thought it was odd that he was walking his daughter to church. And so I walked up, introduced myself. I said, "Hey, my name's Chris Moore. Just wanted to introduce myself to you and wanted to say thank you for, bringing your daughter here." He said, "I know, Chris, I know." He's like, "I know it's weird that I walk her to the church. We don't go here yet. We drive about 45 minutes away to come here." But during the second week of quarantine, my daughter was sexually assaulted by a friend, and she lost every single person in her life. And she was in the lowest points in her life, and I had a lot of concerns. And basically, tells me that our youth ministry was a part of saving her life in this season. And he said that she saw us on Instagram, and she saw our community. And she said, as soon as they open, I have to be there. And when she came on campus, it was one of those such a powerful moments, and everything clicked for me. And I was like, oh, this online thing's here to stay. Oh, this works. Oh, we can reach people in our communities. Oh, this can make a difference in people's lives. And it was that moment that I was like, all this was worth it. All those hundreds and thousands of hours that we put into tweaking this and making this worth it. And it was that moment that I realized that this is something we're going to continue to do, and not even in person. Now we still have these things that we run. So, that's our thing. And dude, that was the story. So
yeah. Man, we got a really great question here. Well, the first one is hilarious. Someone said, well, you can put up that question, but the first one said, where can I get a dangly earring and which hot topic should I hit up? Let's go.
Okay. Dude, someone on the past conference, their handle was Chris's left earring. I was like, you guys are so dumb.
Bro,
anyway,
that's awesome.
Trolls out there. Where can you get a dangly earring? I don't know. People do like Etsy, ASOS, Claire's.
Claire's. Bro, don't let me ever catch you. Listen, if you're a youth pastor and I catch you at Claire's, we got problems.
Yeah. Well, I got a 2-year-old girl, so catch me at Claire's.
This is a great question. Which platform is the most important right now for youth ministries, IG or TikTok?
Well, first off, let me say this. You got to start with your end goal. So YouTube's incredible, but it's a content library and a search engine. So you've got to start thinking, because let me take you to a higher level of thinking about platforms. Let's think about content and the way people consume them, and content, the way they consume it, the community. Okay. So basically, TikTok is a super highway. Things go viral. The content is crazy. It's incredible. But the community on TikTok is not localized. So I'll say this, that the return on investment on TikTok to make real gains on your campus is very, very low. So TikTok's awesome, and I love it because you can reach kids for Jesus. Elijah Lamb, who's an incredible young leader and a friend of mine, he's seeing 70 kids dedicate their life to Christ on TikTok every single week. He's like, kids are making decisions online for Christ on TikTok. It's crazy and it's powerful, but it's globalized. It's not a localized type platform. See, Instagram, through location tags, through community, the ability to move a student online on Instagram to your campus is much more beneficial. So I'd say that Instagram needs most of your energy, most of it. And then it's like, hey, can this piece of content live on TikTok as well? That's kind of the way I would think about it, because TikTok or Instagram is incredibly localized. So you can make a bigger impact in your community for your campus and your youth ministry on Instagram. So that's why I would say Instagram.
Yeah. Chris, I like your strategy though, because sometimes I feel like as we're making content, and the content is dope nonetheless, we're making it for each other and not for our communities. So I love the way that you've gone. I mean, let's be real, right? Nobody wants to say it, but you're like, I'm gonna post this. and then everyone around me is gonna be like, "This is fire," and then a couple of bookings are gonna come my way, right? Like we've all done that. We've even used because sometimes we're so desperate, right? Like we've even used our youth ministry platform like it was our platform. You know what I mean? But how do we keep? And I know this is a weird question, but how do we keep integrity in this thing to really make sure? Because we are gonna post stuff that's kind of the youth ministry flex. There's no problem with it, especially when we're getting wins. But how do we keep integrity in this to make sure that it is for our students, our leaders, and that we're building lives with what we're posting?
Dude, I'm fortunate. I have an Enneagram 8 wife. And so legit nothing gets by my wife. Nothing. It smells like self-promotion. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna hear about it. And so I would say like I'm lucky because my greatest accountability partner is my wife, and she knows. Yeah, right. I would say that find accountability, and even online, because it is such a dark place. One thing I've been saying is this. I've been saying like your phone, you can decide whether or not to turn on the light on your phone. In the same way you can decide how this thing gets used. Is this a light online? Are you going to use this as a tool, or is this going to be a negative? You kind of have to make those decisions, set up those boundaries, and have people in your life who log into your Instagram. That's just my honest truth. Like my wife's on my Instagram. My admin can sign into my Instagram. My Instagram is not mine. It's like, it's a platform that I'm called to steward, and I have a community of people that I submit it to. So, find those boundaries. Like, I would say like integrity wise, like with other students or with people like that. And then with yourself, dude, you've got to do the hard work to make sure it's not about self-promotion.
That's good, bro. That's good. That's good.
What are some of the ways that you're doing that, Chris? Like is some of that captured in what you've already shared with, students really taking ownership and really, kind of leading the way in this? Or is that captured in other decisions that you're making?
I would say, as far as like integrity or stuff online, is that kind of the direction you want me to go with that question? Yeah, I would say that I'm thinking about my audience and how can I serve them ultimately. And when I start with what do people need, then I can kind of like freshen up, like, because the honest truth is even if they need it, if it's not something in the form they want it, they won't consume it. So that's where I have to start. I start with the need, and then I'm like, okay, how can I serve this to people in a way that they'll want to get what they need? Okay. So those are a couple questions I use personally for my own Instagram when it comes to like content, community, and then through like our Heart Youth stuff. It's like, we honestly, like, we don't think about youth pastors. We have a lot of youth pastors who follow our Instagram now, and like national people who follow it. We really only look at the needs of our students for it. We don't think about, like, youth pastors aren't in our content idea. The Valley Conference, we're like, okay, we want to tell the story of Valley Conference. And so when we tailor that for leaders, student leaders, and youth pastors.
Yeah, so good. That's a couple great questions that just came in. Here's one from James Esposito, who's one of our Assembly of God youth pastors in Ohio. Do you ever have students sign up to be influencers who aren't allowed to have social media? How do you keep them involved?
Yeah, I would say first off, the point of someone having social media and using it is like, it's part of the discipleship question. And to be honest, I'm not as worried about those students as others, because usually they have a parent who's like helicoptering over them and won't let them have it. So I'm not as much worried about their discipleship. I mean, like, you can be a part of the community, but if you're not on Instagram, you better be having kids show up to youth group like that. Like, you almost have to be more missional with that student. Almost has to be like a step above, because of what they do. To be honest, they miss out on a big piece of the community, and that's the honest truth. Is because a lot of our community happens in a group chat, and it's done that way intentionally. That we have our primary form of communication is an Instagram group chat, and they miss out on it, and they have to be okay with that, because like they'll get like the in-person stuff, they'll get some of it, they'll get like the community, but if they're not going to take that step, it's like that's okay, but like this is the way we do it. And so it's a discipleship question with the parents. It obviously there is a little bit more dancing. We've seen some parents be like, oh wow, I actually want my student to be an influence online, to change their friends. And it creates more conversation for the parents to be more involved with the student, which is ultimately what we want. Like the parents are the primary spiritual influencer in the home. And when the parents can be more involved in their social media, it's like as soon as that kid turns 18, they're getting Instagram and they're moving out and they're about to be buck wild. Like, whoa, I didn't even know this was out in the world. And so instead of just sheltering our kids, we'd rather have conversations of like, how do you use this well?
You're helping disciple that area of their life, which I think
exactly
is incredible. You know, too many of us have just said, no, don't do that, or don't do, you know, that's, you're going to get in trouble there, you know? So, and you make a good point. It's the same conversation my wife and I've had about our teenagers. You know, we can either form their thoughts and disciple their habits in regards to, in this case, technology and social media, or we can allow, you know, the college freshman roommate that they have do that for us. So, okay, I think I'll do it myself. Right. Yeah. You know, but you're doing that for your youth ministry, which I think is so helpful, and you're teaching your student leaders in this home influencers, which I love. You're teaching them how to leverage that incredibly well. Here's another great question, Chris. Love to have you unpack this one real quick. What does follow-up look like? And what's the process, you know, from liking the reel to showing up on a Wednesday night?
It's a great question.
So this is part of the 5-hour question that I've run through, but there are phases. Let me just walk you through the 4 phases of someone online. So they start out as a viewer, right? They saw something which you really can't track, like who did it all the time, unless it's like online. So like our Instagram live of our service, during our service we do a content push. Dude, I wish I had like hours to run through this, but okay, I'm trying to think about how do I package this. So viewer, right? They see your content, they see your stuff online. Your next step is to convert that person into someone who's engaged. That means they're following you. There's some form of they've identified they want more of your content. And then the next step is interacting, which is moving them from just consuming your content to interacting with you. It's 2-way. And then the last phase is influencer, which is like they own your content, they love your content, they're in discipleship in your community, and they're influencing through it. So when you think about like funneling people through that process, like a big part of it has to do with, and a practical thing is Instagram messaging. Every kid who follows us on Instagram gets a DM. Hey, here's your next steps. If you're part of this community, here's a great way for you to be more involved. We have our Sunday night youth ministry. Please feel free to be a part of it. And if you want to be in a Zoom group, this is our pastor. This is how we lead. And so like a menu. And then once they follow us, they also get another follow from our spam account. So we actually have a strategy online to move kids from outsiders to insiders, because spam accounts are like the thing that you pull the veil back behind, right? It's like the community that's really exclusive. Inside jokes. It's stupid, but all our kids have spam accounts. So we use it to try and pull kids deeper into community. So yeah, those are a couple like little quick tips.
Yeah, so good. What is Chris? You mentioned it earlier, but what's you have a whole resource that you've developed for this that's incredibly thorough and well thought out, and you just alluded to it now, even in your answer there, that there's so much more, and you're just kind of scratching the surface for us. But how can somebody get that? Where do they go again if they're interested in picking up this resource that you guys have?
So influencers, there's an S, program.com. I have the link in my bio on Instagram, but listen, I'll throw this out here. If you get the free resource, you'll be dropped into like a campaign where like it'll tell you more about the program if you want to do that. Like I said, I have a free resource called Your New Front Door on Instagram in my bio. But listen, I got a discount code that I've been running this season because I want youth pastors to decide whether or not your phone is going to be a light or not. So if you use the promo code flashlight, you're going to get 10% off. And yeah, so you can buy that program and get a discount on it. So if that's something you want to get more into and building out your strategy so you can reach and grow through online, that's the whole thing. So
yeah, so good, man. This has been great. Chris, man, just appreciate you, and you and I've just connected recently, but appreciate how God's using you, and you're running so strong in this particular lane, which I think is huge, right? And I feel like that's even what I've seen that with like more and more national leaders in youth ministry across our country and beyond. God's like really defining like, hey man, here's the lane you run in, and man, go for it. And you're doing that so well, which is encouraging, which is one of the reasons why we're excited that you're going to be a part of Lead the Generation Conference coming up.
Yes.
7th and 8th. Yes. And so excited for you to share a breakout more specific to a lot of what you're talking about now. And for our whole Lead the Gen family that's a part of the conference, you'll be able to, recommend that exact same resource to them. So that's going to be exciting, dude. So glad you're going to be joining us for the online conference. It's going to be a good time. Yeah, really good.
Thanks, man.
So, Peter.
Thanks, man.
Man, you got any last minute questions here for Chris before we let him go?
Man, Chris, no, just comments, just thankfulness, incredibly grateful just for the wisdom, man. I'm jumping on Amazon as soon as this is over, getting my turtlenecks popping, dangly earrings. Now I got a new role model, baby, so I'm good to go. And, so Chris, thank you so much, though, man. I'm honored.
Later on this afternoon.
What'd you say?
Peter's heading to Claire's. I said you're heading to Claire's later on this afternoon.
Oh yeah, I got an appointment at 4:30. If you see Claire, tell her I'm looking for her. Chris, you're brilliant, and
love you guys.
No, bro, we appreciate the wisdom that comes from you, bro, and we're excited that we get to learn from you even more in the days to come. But thank you, man, for giving us a old-fashioned lesson, man, on how to be influential and how to grow what God's entrusted to us. We appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Peter, for having me on. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Love what you guys are building. Thanks for the invitation. It's an honor.
Yeah, this is so good. Hey, man, we're excited. Once again, May 7th and 8th, Lead the Gen Conference online coming up. Registration opens on Monday, March 29th. You can go to the website now, get a bunch of details. Over the weekend, we'll be releasing all 36 plus main session and breakout speakers that you're going to be able to get your hands on. Start talking with your students about it now. Registration again Monday, $10 ticket sale just that day. After that, it goes up to $19 a person. So you're going to want to jump all over that for sure. But hey, we're going to head out today. And if you missed the video earlier for the conference, we're going to end the live stream today one more time with what's happening with our conference, May the 7th and 8th. Peter, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you. Love you. Chris, thanks so much for being with us. And